Well, hey everybody, it's Casey Jaycox with the Quarterback Dadcast. We're in season six, and season six continues to bring us some fantastic guests. And our next one is one I think for all my beloved Seahawk fans, you're going to enjoy our next guest, who I met through a gentleman in my community, the one and only MK Bruce, who I think can bench press like 1,000 pounds. But I also met our next guest because of the fine folks at Treehouse, which is a nonprofit serving youth in foster care. And I got invited to that event because of a friend, Amber Bush, who's a partner at Clark Newber. So thank you for your support to Treehouse. Our next guest, I'm going to kind of tease it, see what I can get. He's a 2005 second round pick by the Hawks. He's a former quarterback in Massachusetts. He did play linebacker for a few years. He came from King Philip, went to the University of Maine, which I don't think a lot of people know. But then he transferred to USC Trojans, fight on, first team All Pac-10 in 2004, first team All-American in 2024. I hope the guy has met Will Ferrell at one point, but everybody, that's not why we're having him on. We're having Lofa Tatupu on to talk about Lofa the dad and how he's working hard to become the ultimate quarterback or leader of his household. Without further ado, Mr. Tatupu, number 51. Welcome to the Quarterback Dadcast.
My brother, thank you for the introduction. And
How about
and yes,
that? Hey,
I'm glad a lot of people skip University of Maine, and I always make sure to bring it back in because, and I'm sure we'll get into it. That was where it all started. For in terms of furthering my football career. But yeah, thank you for mentioning them. Means a
you
lot to
bet,
me.
man. You bet. Well, before I get into that question, I want to. We always start each episode gratitude. So tell me, what are you most grateful for as a dad today?
I mean, how much time do you have, man? Because just their health and happiness. I think first and foremost, just watching them continue on their journey and finding what they love has really given me a lot of fulfillment and joy and happiness. But yeah, just they're healthy and they're learning, every day, and so am I. So
Yeah,
and, grateful for it all, man.
that's awesome. It's never. I don't think we can never slow down enough to talk about that, which is why I always like to start with gratitude. For me, Lofa, I'm most grateful for very similar. I had a fantastic conversation with my son this morning. He's a freshman in college playing golf at a small school called Southern Oregon, and doesn't really have anything to do with where he's at, but it was like we got this conversation around life and relationships and people, and one thing that I've learned in life, people are either energy givers or energy takers, and just reminded him that every situation you get in, whether it's good or bad, there's going to be change, there's going to be ups and downs, and you have control over most environments that if you choose the right mindset. Now, it's not always easy, but it was just a really fun conversation to kind of like, as my son continues to mature and grow. He's a 19-year-old, and I still feel like I'm his age, but I'm not. But I'm very grateful for these types of conversations I'm starting to have as he's entering that adult world.
Yeah, no, brother. Hey, man, that was awesome to hear. And I know what you're saying. I feel my 14-year-old is very emotionally intelligent, more so than I've ever been. So I learn a lot from him, more so than he does from me.
There you go.
Um, but yeah, and these were conversations that were not had when we were growing up.
hmm
So good for you.
Yeah, it's I don't know how much that's changed, if it's society or what, but like I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd be on Snapchat, and I've actually joked about this before in previous episodes, but I had a client tell me about it. He goes, "If you want to stay in touch with your son in college, get on Snapchat." I'm like, "Bro, I'm like 49. What am I going to get on Snapchat for?" But we have like a 250-day streak.
Amazing.
And it's like, it's not like, oh, I got to talk to my dad today. He's like, no, this is what I do. We talk, text, snap,
Yeah.
whatever. And I'm just grateful for that. Like, cause I did not talk to my parents every day,
No. And
you
right
know?
with the lines of communication literally were not there.
No, no.
So
Well, bring me inside. We'll call it the Tatupu huddle, but bring me inside, maybe talk about where you and your wife met, and then talk about each member of the squad, what they're up to.
man, I met my wife when she always says when we were 13, because that's when we first dated, but we met when we were 11. Um, there was an ice skating rink in Franklin, and Friday or Saturday nights, everybody used to go there. And so, of course, we were dating other people, but just happened to I think the energy we understood, like it felt like I had known her for years, even in the first conversation. And so just became really great friends, dated briefly in what, seventh or eighth grade, and then kind of went our separate ways again through high school. I had a girlfriend and she had a boyfriend for, those years. And then just as fate would have it, we both went off to college, different places, and then we ended up meeting back up because two broke college kids. You coming home? Like we're not going to Cancun or Cabo like a lot of kids get to experience. We went home, and when I was home, we just connected at a party and happened to actually finally not be in a relationship and just started hanging out. And it just kind of developed over time through the next semester when we came back home for summer. And it was like summer love, I guess. But it was meant to be. And then as I transferred and everything. But yeah, so we just celebrated our 15th wedding anniversary last Wednesday. And
Congrats.
thank you. And we I've known her for 30 years. 30, yeah, I'm 42 now. So since I was 11, 12 years old, 30 years. And so there's just a lot of history. And I think
Mm,
that's pretty special in the regard of like, hey, do you remember this? Or do you remember when? Like, we had a lot of those conversations, recalling the past. And
yeah.
so that's that's the real leader of the household. And if you want, I can get her on and she can like,
She's the
she
GM.
yes. So and then you know, marriage, and then we had our first Kai, he's 14 now, but just amazing spirit and old soul, if you will. And then he's got a younger brother, Kane, who is very much little Lofa. And so I'm trying to really help him not control, but come to terms with and understand his emotions. And why things he perceives them a certain way. Because I was the same way. I was just very passionate, very energetic like him. But I would fly off the deep end just like every other second. Just like, what'd you say? Like I didn't say anything. So yeah, those are the members of the household and what they're into. You asked my wife, yoga. Um, she's a real estate agent, just got her license, very proud. I mean, she does everything. She can do everything, and much similar to the oldest Kai. He very musically inclined. That is his path. I know that, and I told him that several years ago. He is playing sports, and I'm happy because he's understanding teamwork, accountability. Everything. No one does anything special by themselves. Not even a musician. They have a team around them if they want
Yeah.
success, right? And hard work. And then the youngest is just getting into baseball, and that's got me really excited because he's got the passion to. He's the mindset and passion, just like okay, like I'm here, but I know where I'm going. I can get better just every other day. Like just keep going. Um, so it's different, but yeah, he's into art. Like what is it, animation? So we
Mm,
signed him up for like Code Ninjas, where they taught him coding,
wow.
and this is where he really shocked me. Kids will shock you, right? I thinking that we were very similar, I really would have had a tough time with learning coding because if it didn't come natural, and it didn't for him, I thought he was going to just like, oh, this isn't for me, right? Which is kind of like what a lot of us did growing up. Like,
Sure.
if you didn't have a little bit of success or couldn't see long term, big picture, like where you're headed with it, you were discouraged, right? Hopefully your parents helped you push through, right? But he shocked me and he's making these amazing animations, digital drawings. It's awesome. And so yeah, man, it's every day is an adventure and I'm grateful for it.
That's awesome. That's cool. So I always love going back in time with my guests and make them think about what was life like growing up for them. And actually, before I do that, I got to say I have not met many people that have dated as long as my wife and I have. And so my wife and I met in eighth grade. So 13, 14, same. So very similar paths. She went to University of Washington. I played football at there's my first Uncle Rico moment right there at Central Washington University. She couldn't get into Central, so she went to UW because Harvard, it is the Harvard of the West, as many people know that, you
Love
know,
it.
joking aside. But yeah, I definitely married up too. And my wife keeps our house tight. And she reads a defense. I know what cover two is, but she can read most coverages a lot better than me
I
in
know what
life.
you're saying, brother. I already know what you're saying. But good for you, man. Good for you guys.
Yeah. And we actually just celebrated 26 years.
Incredible.
I know. And it's like, there's no one else I can't imagine spending life with. So I'm very grateful for that. But okay, so I want to go back in time, the days of Massachusetts. Talk about what was life like growing up for you and the impact mom and dad had on you.
Oh man, everything. I grew up in Massachusetts. It was I didn't know any different but as I would come to experience more of life when I, went on to college, even going to Maine and then California and then being here in Seattle, um, looking back, it was very different. But at the time, I didn't know anything else because I was the only Samoan in Massachusetts, at least other than I had two others, my sister and my dad. But so just trying to make sense of like really where I belonged or fit
Mm,
in the world, right? And but I always had two just pillars of strength and encouragement, and both of them, my mom and my dad.
mm,
They just always told me to chase my dreams and do what makes me happy. And football, that was it for me. Like I
mm,
couldn't picture anything else, and I didn't want it.
mm,
It was an obsession. Like really, that's really what it comes down. Like when I played it. You had to play everything growing up. You couldn't have a down season, right? You had to play basketball, baseball, something, whatever, winter, fall. And so I played football. Then we go to basketball. While I was in basketball, I'm talking about football. When I went to baseball, I'm talking about football, and I'm like
mm,
watching reruns of recorded football games, and it was very clear to both of my parents that this was my path. And so all they did, because it wasn't always right. Success isn't just a straight shot or a hockey stick like everybody thinks. It was like, whoa, hey, hey, oh, hey, maybe no, like, and so having them there, because there's times where, especially it's your first time at all of this, and you don't know what you don't know, but the encouragement and like, hey, you got better, and this is what you did today that was different from yesterday, started, you know, putting a pattern in my brain of like really calculating and understanding progress.
mm,
And because I loved what I was doing, even when I wasn't one of the best players on the field, I was like, I'm meant to be here.
mm,
And so yeah, having that, man, that's what I'm trying to impart to my kids. I was like, "Yeah, whatever you're doing, gonna choose, it's gonna be hard. Like I love quotes and sayings, that if
yeah.
you're doing what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, you're not gonna be great at what you do, like what you love. If that's your attitude, you'll never do. But I understand what it means. Like you're gonna feel like you're not working.
Yep.
It's really gonna carry you through the dark times. Is like, and so um, that's why I just love like the courage to stick through it and see it through. And that's really what I'm just trying to teach the boys. Like with my oldest, I'm like, dude, music is your path, and like don't fight it, own it. And I don't. He recently surprised me. Just got up like and sang in front of 100 adults that he didn't know at a birthday party, like rapped, and it was a I've never had that experience, like mind, body, soul, just like I could feel the energy and it was
Wow.
amazing. And I gave him a big hug and kiss after. And then when we got home, we had a great, meaningful conversation, much like you were saying with your son. And I told him, I go, hey, Kai, I don't care if you pick up a basketball or football ever again in your life. I go, what I saw tonight was your path and your calling. But you just got to pour your soul into it. And I can show you how I did that with football, right?
Yeah.
And and I just saw the biggest smile on his face because, I think he felt a lot of pressure probably to play. Like I never felt pressure to play, even though a lot of people expected me to play. I was like, no, this is what I love.
Hmm.
And so with like I feel like I saw a sense of relief in him too. right? And dude, he's just been upstairs in the studio every day, like nonstop since. And I'm like, yes, this is how it's done. Like
Let's
that was me
go.
when I was young, right? Like that was
Yeah,
us with football, right? So it's exciting, man. And yeah, it was really like a transcendent moment in time for me where it was an experience.
that's so cool. You're bringing me back to like a story I had when I was a kid. That when you find that passion. I remember I was the skinny. There's a quarterback supposed to be better than me. He was a better athlete, but I was didn't know at the time, just a better leader than him. And but I remember my coach, kind of what you just did to your son. You instilled belief in him, and without judgment, but belief, which is why the signs behind me, people can see it. Believe always
Yeah.
remind me that I believe what I do matters. I do work like as an executive coach now, which I did not ever plan on doing, and help people just think about that word, which you did a really good job with your son. And this coach, I remember he told me, Coach Marty Osborne, he goes, man, if you're going to be our quarterback, but here's what you got to do. And so I was like, wait, what? Like I didn't believe it myself. And I think that's why
Wow.
like your belief in you, which is why I think what separates people like me play at the D2 level to get to the next level is like it's another level of belief and another level of competitiveness that you just don't know. But when you see it, it's like, wow. Anyway, so I remember getting a job and at a freaking place called Ernst, which is I think they've gone out of business, like a hardware store. And my first paycheck, I used it to go buy supplies to build a little L frame where I hung a tire in my backyard on a sport court.
Oh,
When I put a tarp behind it, and I literally would just throw 4, 5, 600 balls a day by myself.
amazing.
You
I
know,
love I love that.
and so you think about your parents. I always joke, what a parent's dream. Like they didn't have iPads back when I was growing up, or phones, but my parents just like they. I was not getting in trouble. I was out there playing football by myself because if no one could run routes for me, I'm gonna throw into the tarp.
Target practice, baby. I when I have to call on that ball, I know where it's going. Like and
Yeah,
the muscle memory and everything, man. Like that's that's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, you bet, man. Okay, and this is not about me; it's about you. But you inspired that story out of me. So you think values wise, and you think about like pressure, and the think people could say, "Man, Lofa, he had this crazy career," and the fact that you're already, I think you're so present in your mindset about not putting that pressure on your kids, which is huge. Um, and if my memory is correct, your dad played for the Patriots.
He played 14 years, 13 of them were for the Patriots, and then 1 year for the Rams, and then called it a career.
So like, and you mentioned earlier you didn't feel the pressure. Where do you think your that passion or that drive came to say this is what I'm going to do?
You know, my mom was probably the biggest champion of like mindset and like, now her story is pretty special too. Um, she's the oldest of seven. Her dad's a Marine and her mom's Air Force, right? So there was some structure put in place on young Loaf at a very early age. Um, but also just, hey, this is how you do things, like and strategic, like everything. Like I was, you know, equipped with some weapons that a lot of kids weren't. And that they always thought, oh, well, his dad was a football player, so he's got the genes and everything. I wasn't the athlete my dad was. My dad was a phenomenal athlete in every sport. He had scholarships for football, baseball, and basketball back in the 70s when you were lucky if you got one scholarship, right? And so, yeah, you had to be making some serious noise to have schools flying out to Hawaii and trying to recruit you. And so, but so my mom just she was always there, and like I kind of like I tell her stories sometimes of times I remember where like her words meant the world to me when maybe I didn't believe, right? Like when I was young, and like sometimes she forgets. She's like, "I said that," and I was like, "Yes, you said that, mom." Like because and so but I did always have the understanding or the mindset of I can get better and I will get better. Like that was something my youngest, like I was talking about, he has it. He'll sit and watch and watch and watch. And he's just studying and he's trying to understand and make sense of it. Um, because he's a visual learner like I am. And so, like film study and all that, that's really where I got my edge. And where I took away other people's superpowers, the athletically super gifted, like superheroes, right? They
Mm,
became normal when I took their powers away. I was like, I know his moves, I know his steps, I'm counting them, and I think that's the level you were asking me about. So the mindset, it was developed from both parents, and then I just always heard stories of how tough my dad was, and then he never talked football or really like talked about being tough. Like he just did it, right? And so I
mm.
saw with example the toughness, and then I would hear all his friends like, man, that's one of the toughest guys. And my understanding was, I was like, well, that's just a choice. Like, that's not, no one's born with that or without it. They can develop it, right? It's a skill. And so, yeah, from the effort and the toughness and the just belief, that was from my parents. Like they passed that down to me, thankfully.
Okay, so we talk about toughness, and I think that's something where like when I was growing up, like I was born in '76, so like '80s. I think there was dads didn't talk to their kids the way dads talk to kids now. I think I don't mean to judge or stereotype everybody, but um, toughness. I didn't learn true mental toughness until I went through the adversity in like high school. I had a really bad injury that really prevented which is why I went to Central Washington. But and I learned about like life is not fair and it is going to be hard at times. But and now I feel like dads are doing a lot. We're a lot more interacting. We're a lot more embracing kind of the EQ of life around embracing vulnerability, asking great questions. Like, are you a listener versus just like, send the kid out to play and you show up 8 hours later. I mean, there's some that still works wherever you may live, but I think it seems like there's a more tendency to like really teach mental toughness or teach mental skills. And that's its own journey of like careers for many people now. But like for you, was there a moment where you feel like your mental toughness or your journey of like making that choice clicked that you think maybe a story might come to mind?
Oh, there's several. I think getting bullied for looking different, when I was very young and not understanding like what was going on, like what do they mean? What are they talking about? Like, but as you understand more and comprehend more, you're just like, oh, all right, well, so you have to build a layer of, extra skin or tough skin and just but mentally and emotionally, you have to try to like make peace with it and just forgive. And so as that, happened when I was young, then so funny story. Well, it's funny now. It was very traumatic at the time. Just and it wasn't just words like bullying. Like it was actual fist fights, right? Like this is old days, right? And so you just have to go through hell, man. Like, so who's it going to be today? Like, who do I have to fight? And like I was just like eating punches left and right, like just and like, but nothing hurt worse than not trying. Like that's what really gets at you. Like that is what tears away at your soul. And but I didn't know any better. I knew I was like, hey, I wasn't supposed to fight. Yes, you can defend yourself, is what my parents said. And like I didn't even have the heart at the time to do that. Right. And so then we finally go, a couple years later, I was probably like 9, and we go to Hawaii. My dad's getting his jersey retired at his high school, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be great. I'm gonna be around my cousins and people that look like me. It's gonna be awesome. Like I'm actually gonna finally feel like I belong.
Yeah.
So we go out there, and my cousins start talking shit to me, and they're like twice the size of the kids back east, and they're same age. They're just monsters. But like at that moment, I kind of snapped, right? It's almost like I love Marvel comics growing up, where the arc of the hero or the villain, right? And yeah, it wasn't pretty. I snapped, I fought everybody, and I I just finally sat there because I could feel it coming again. I was like, oh my God, you're gonna cower out again? Are you gonna do it? Like, and I just snapped and I said, no, I've taken everybody's punch. I'm going to show you my best punch. And I just started throwing back at everybody. And like, look, Any kid listening to this is not, I'm not telling you to go join a fight club to get your mental toughness down. I'm just sharing my experience, and hopefully we can get something from it. But um, then I came back home and I was like, they everybody saw a new Lofa was born. Like there, it wasn't the same kid that they were used to picking on, and I mean, whether they felt the energy or anything, like they were like, all right, nah, like he doesn't have the same look in his eye, and so that was probably one of the first, because you're just going to continue. That's like you said, life. It's not fair. You're just going to keep going through adversity, and it's just how you respond. And so the next one, unfortunately, my parents grew apart, which happens, right? And they divorced, and it was kind of a slow process, which was tough. And then, like, I guess, like statistically, they say 9 to 12 is like where the worst time to do it when a kid is in those age range. I was 9 to 12, so like it was talk about just a little more trauma. Let's sprinkle a little more trauma on there.
Right.
And I can laugh at it now because it helped build me. It helped make me stronger. It helped me appreciate, you know, everything. And so, but, and I remember at the time, like my mom they both still always had, you know, love for us. And I know they loved each other, but they had just grown apart, which happens, right? And so my mom said, hey, things could always be worse. Like that
Yeah.
perspective. And picture a little kid like, how? How is that
Right.
possible? Like my whole world
Yeah.
has just changed. I don't know what to make of it. Nothing makes sense anymore. And a year later, we lost our house. So talk about another layer of toughness. Um,
Wow.
it was just a series over and over and over. And like when you have those things happen, it's sadly gonna could break you, or it could just make you into a different type of beast. And I said, okay, what am I gonna do with everything I'm feeling? I'm gonna channel it, I'm gonna harness it, and then I'm gonna channel it towards football. And I was like, and so like in a very short time, because I was not very good at football, but I was loving it. All of a sudden you started to see me just ascend and ascend and ascend, and like everybody was like, I don't know, there's something wrong with that guy. It was like, there's a lot wrong with that guy, but just there became a clear understanding of like, hey man, things are gonna happen. Like the only thing you control, like they always say, effort and attitude. Like,
Yep.
can you give it everything you have, and only you know that. And then do you do it with a positive attitude from the right frame of mind and perspective? So, man, I just fell all in with football, because it was my first love. That was like when I was 6, I started playing, and it just I was like, I love this game. I completely love this game.
Yeah. No, I share the similar, not similar, but I share the love of football, and because it taught me so many life lessons. I mean, I was an average student, 3 to 3 3. Didn't really apply myself because it wasn't fun, but like the game of football taught me visualization, goal setting, mindset, leadership, humility. Um, I mean, I can go on for days about,
Yeah,
and I think in those that have not played the game, it's hard to know until you've been in the locker room with dudes and the look, and you played quarterback, so it's like when people look at you and that they're like intently looking at you in your eye, it's like that feeling is addicting to. And when football got
absolutely.
taken away from me when I was done in college, it was like I remember cried for like 3 hours. Like I
Yeah,
just was like, and didn't know I was going to do it. I remember I was at a bar with my girlfriend, wife now, one of my offensive linemen, I'm running back, and no, my other quarterback, and I remember just like I'm freaking done. Like got teased in the arena league a little bit, but like done. And when that got done, it was like, oh, But for you, how hard was it for you when it got taken away?
it's it's just like that, like just exactly like what you felt, and like that's why it's the greatest game. Like you can't just go pick up and play down the street. There's no beer league. I wish there was. Maybe we'll start one. But you can't just go pick up and get 22 guys, because that's what you need to play against the offense or defense, right? And like so that's why it's there is a definite finality to it, and like just you understand that, and I really did because my dad played in the NFL, and I knew, like they would always joke, "Not for long," right? And it's the truth. It's the truth. So just making the most of that opportunity is all you could do, and hopefully you have some luck on your side, like with injuries and everything. But it's that's the beauty of the game we love. And I always tell it when I get around some NBA guys and we're talking, or some Major League Baseball. I was like, yo, we don't have 7 games to figure it out. We have 4 quarters and possible overtime. Like,
Yeah.
for the championship. We can't come back strategically and say, "Hey, let's do it this way this time." I was like, "This is why our game's better than yours."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to go back, Lofa, to something you said earlier. So you said, like, growing up with, getting to like learn to be tough, like when people didn't look like you. And in 2020, in the heart of COVID, the heart of like Black Lives Matter movement, like I personally, grew more in my diversity than I've ever grown in my entire life, for a couple reasons. One, I was a typical naive white person that didn't realize what I didn't know. I was a typical naive white person that didn't know what the word privilege meant. In my mind, when sometimes I would hear privilege, I'd be like, "Dude, what are you talking about? I worked my ass off. I blah blah blah." And I just didn't get it. And I always loved giving love to one of my dear friends to this day. I met in this entrepreneurial journey, a guy named Dale Favors. And I hope Dale will listen to this one because I love the guy dearly. He taught me so much about so many things, and through that journey of just like continue learning. I don't know if you ever, the author who just passed away, one of my favorite authors, a guy named John Feinstein. So he wrote a book called Raise a Fist, Take a Knee. And he wrote a book that the book was essentially saying what a joke the Rooney Rule is, which is essentially saying that, hey, we have to interview certain people of color. Sorry, NFL, if I'm throwing you on blast, I don't mean to, but like this is his words, not mine. But it intrigued me. And so I reached out to him. We had this so we had 2 white dudes having this conversation. And he got, when he wrote the book, he interviewed, it was like 99% of people of color from the book. And he built so many relationships through just like the respect factor, which was like, it blew me away. But anyway, I'm overshare this because after going through what I went through in 2020, I then reached out to probably 6 or 7 teammates I played with. A Samoan, American Samoa, Mike T, shout out to you, brother. And every position player I could think of color, I went back and I said, "Man, I'm sorry, I wasn't more curious as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old. And I'd love to like just learn more about you." And I had some of the most powerful conversations that I wish I would have had then. Now I don't know what I don't know, and so maybe going through what I went through, but it's fun to like share these now with my kids as a dad, to be able to say like, "Listen, like we don't go to many restaurants when we're the only white people. We have no idea what that feels like." So like my goal, like as a dad, as it relates to like diversity and some of the challenges that we're still going to be here for years, is I'm never going to solve racism, but if I can put a dent in it, then it's like, I feel like I'm doing my part. But I don't know why I'm sharing that with you, but
Hey, felt compelled to share it. I like it, man. It's what life's all about. And
yeah.
yeah, I think you go back to like what you were saying with the locker room. There's no place like it. There's no place
Mm-hmm.
like a locker room after a win. And like, even you look at sporting events, no one's sitting there like, "Oh, who'd you vote for? Who'd you vote?" Everybody, there's every race, every gender, everything right there, rooting for one or the other team, right?
Yeah.
And so sports unites. Like, that's really, what I love about it. And the locker room, you find out we come from so many different walks of life, and hopefully we only share our best, right? Like, of our culture, of our upbringing, of everything. But you get to learn, like, oh shit, we're like the same dude. like this, like, I know you've had those moments, right?
Oh yeah.
Where like the light bulb goes off. We're like, oh my god, we're like the same dude. We just grew up on different coasts and everything. But like, yeah, like, I love that video game, and then I watched that growing up, like, because I mean, but yeah, so that's what I really love about sports, every sport, but especially like team sports, is like that camaraderie, that brotherhood. And so I've thought of everybody that laced them up, high school, Pop Warner, anytime, all the way up. But if you ever lace those cleats up and played tackle football, or football, you're a brother to me. Like you even if you went through one season, you understand what we've went through, even at the little level, like right. So because like of course a lot of people say, oh well, I didn't play, like you. I was like, yes, you did. Yes, you did. And like that's how you have to look at it because you know what I had to go through in terms of practice, dedication, teamwork, everything. So yeah, that's why I love our game. I love all sports, but I really love our game.
Yeah, that's awesome. As you think about your core values, things that you learned from your mom and dad, core values that you and your wife now are like teaching your kids. Like, tell me what's a couple of values that really come to top of your mind that are real super important to you as a dad.
Just respect really stands out, right? And like that one, he didn't have to say. He wasn't a big talker, but he didn't have to say much. He did it, like, and he let his actions speak for himself. And he took me and love and caring and all that too. But respect is the one that stood out the most in terms of when I just think of my dad taking me to charity events, and which I always feel connected to him when I do those. Like when I saw you at Treehouse, I think you could feel the energy, and that whole room was
Yeah,
electric. Um, but it's yeah, respect was the one that always stood out with him. I always wanted his respect, like that. Like I knew he loved me, but it
yeah,
meant more to me when he goes. And I remember just like three or four handful of times he goes, "Hey, love, you really did something. I'm proud of you." So hearing him say he was proud of me was more important to me as a man, a young man, um, than hearing "I love you" from him, if that makes sense. And then when I think about my mom, just like love and caring, like she, just like passionate, just like me in terms of everything I go to attempt. If you're gonna do it, do it. Like I'm going all the way in. Like I'm not no half stepping. Whether it's football, anything, if you're going to take the time to do it right. And I mean, I think a
hmm
little of it that is her the military background and everything, but she cares very much more so than a lot of people I've come across in life, in
hmm
this journey. And not just for me, but her care and love for others, right? For all, I'm talking the spider walking across the floor, like she's just very like her heart shines in that capacity. And so those are like the two core values that they really showed me, not just
mm
talked about.
Now, do your boys know these stories too?
Which stories? Which
Like
ones?
just the stories of like just what you've shared around like your growth and the values your mom and dad taught you. Have you shared those stories with your boys?
Not yet, but this might be why I'm here today to learn the power of it and share. Because I just wanna I want them to find their own journey, and like I'm careful to be like helicopter parent, like don't do this. This is what I did, and like it's like I don't know. Like I feel like part of not being able to have those conversations for whatever reason, people weren't doing it. Like the older
Yeah.
generations, right? Whether it was a stigma as weakness, which we know it is not, but also it just I want them not that I don't want them to grow up, but like I don't want to change the way they're thinking because they have an imagination still, and a lot of us don't. And
Yeah.
if you tinker with that, this is like what I worry about is like then maybe it goes on a different path. I just want them to find what they love, and as soon as you find what you love, we'll help you. Me and mom will help you. Really, just go for it.
I think that's super important. And since my one friend, not I have more than one friend, but my one friend who's a diehard Trojan, I got to give him love, Stevie Nadell. He did a really good. Him and his wife Hiller did a really good job when their son was younger. Their son Riley literally thought he's going to play MLB, NHL, and then probably he'll be a pro golfer. And they never once said, "No, you're not." They just said, "Why wouldn't you do that?" And
Love that.
yeah, they just love, and I love the fact it's like our job as parents is to like dream big. Life's going to tell you to go F off sooner or later.
Yep.
Um, like my
Yeah,
son,
but
he's playing at a, like a division NAI small golf school, and he's like, I would say he's an above average golfer, but some of these kids, at least these are really, really good. Well, just recently he's kind of taken the next step, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he tells me, "Hey, Dad, when I get done college, I think I want to try to keep working hard to play on the mini tour." Like, go do
Yes,
it. Like, go do it. I'm not. What? Who's now? Is it realistic? I don't know, but I'm not. I'm not here
it
to say
is.
don't do it.
It is
Yeah.
if he can visualize it and see it. If he clearly sees it, like that's when I was 7, I saw myself getting drafted and I saw myself, and I don't know how or why. I said, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And, everybody's like, you're crazy. And I was like, yeah, maybe, but I'm going for it. I'm going for it. And like that's what I always tell people. I go, hey, when Lofa Tatupu dies, yes, I'm talking third person, sorry, bear with me, everybody. But I mean the physical existence of Lofa Tatupu. He did not die wondering. He went for it all. Like, he took that shot, right? Because the pain of regret and the torture that is my mind, anyways, I'm not saying everybody else's, I would just kill myself mentally over and over, like, but you didn't go for it. You didn't put yourself out there, for fear of failure. When my whole career has been failure. Like, if you really think about it, I didn't get I got one offer to play linebacker. So out of high school, like, and this is where everybody when they go with the all pro and Pro Bowls and All American, yeah, that's cool. One offer, not even to Division 1, is what I had, and I took it. I made the most of my opportunity. Then I transferred, and I was buried on the depth chart. Naturally, this is now the big leagues, right? So I put in the time, and I watched the film, and I understood the game at a different lens and a different level. Like, I just put in the work, and like any good student does to get great grades, a good athlete should be studying everything about the game, the rules, everything, the situational awareness of time on the clock, position on the field, tendencies, percentages, probabilities, outcome. Like, I was diving that deep, like, back before analytics were ever out. I was just coming to an understanding of, okay, they're 90% run out of this formation. 9 out of 10 times I'm going to be right. Let's just go. And so
Wow.
when it became a math game, because I love math, I was like, oh, this is easy. Like, this is so easy. Like, that's, how it felt. But over those, it was just failure, rise, failure, rise. Like, how are we going to overcome this hurdle? Okay, that's how we do it. Let's go. Like, and so that was, kind of the process I went through with everything in terms of the football journey. And I try to transfer it over to life and just become a better student of life and like dad, friend, neighbor, everything. Like, how can you continue to evolve to the highest version of yourself?
Yeah, I hope, man, that now you're like you got goosebumps over that story because there's a lot. But when you said it, even when you said it earlier, like, hey, maybe today's the day I share some of these stories with my kids. Like, I'm of belief that stories sell. So like in the corporate world, I say stories sell, slides don't. But I think when a story is even more powerful is when we ask a question before it to make sure that someone's ready to listen to the story. Because if we just tell a story, they might just be hearing us, not listening to us. And like when my kids got older, I shared the story of like when I broke my foot in high school, didn't play my senior year, got taken away from me. The dude I beat out my junior year, he would go on to be our quarterback my senior year in high school. He broke single season passing yardage record, took us to state playoffs first time in 20 years, and he got named second team all league, and I had to watch. One of the best things that ever happened to me. So now when I share that story with my kids as they got older, because they were younger, they're like, "What? Shut up, Dad. Can we go get a Slurpee?" They didn't care about anything. But like sometimes now they'll still bring up like, "Dad, how hard was that?" I go, "How hard was what?" And they'll ask me questions. And so, but I think when they can see the stories and realize they're not alone, like even like your little dude, like if you see him and you, like I bet you unlock him even more with like the stories that you've been through.
Yeah, now you got me thinking, yeah, I love it. Yeah, I will,
So
man, because like I like I said, watching my oldest light up when he was like singing, like I told him, I'd never seen you smile like that, man. I've seen you make game-winning baskets. I've seen you make game-winning catches. You was just kind of like ho hum, and like I knew that maybe maybe he expected it, but I
Hmm.
knew deep down in my heart and my soul, he didn't love it. And that's fine. I was like, dude, that's fine. Like you're just here to find what you love and pour everything into it. That's what we're doing.
I think it's so powerful, man, and I love that you're sharing that. And you've said that a couple of times. I think hopefully dads and moms listen to at home, whether you're a pro at Microsoft, a pro at Boeing, a pro at real estate, a pro. I don't care where you're a pro, but like, I think it's so important that we let our kids live their journey. Now, I think it's our job to push them and get them comfortable being uncomfortable, and realize that you got to work your ass off for things in life. But like, I played football. My son played flag football till 12. He saw me have some back injuries from football, and he's like, I don't want that. I'm like, good, don't go do you. Like my daughter, she's a hooper. I sucked at basketball, way better. I'm like, go do you. Like, and sometimes it's not always easy to let them live their journey because you got more life experience. But I think like what Loaf and I have talked about today is, our adversity or our failure, our struggle is what's shaped the people we are. And it's the continued failure that we're going to see that's going to continue to shape us.
Yeah.
So,
Right
I
on,
pre-
bro. Well, yeah, we're human, brother.
that's
Right?
right. 100%.
Right?
And
You know?
we're all, and it's funny, like if this whole last thing I'll say, then I'll get off my soapbox. Like sometimes, people say, oh, you're a life coach. I'm like, no, I ain't got life figured out. I'm almost 50 years old. When I'm 95, and I'm still doing this, then call me a life coach because I got more wisdom. But like
There you
people,
go.
like to each his own. Like, and I actually posted this on LinkedIn recently and got a lot of chatter because I was like, I've never thought about it that way. Because I don't know, unless you're getting coached by God, I don't know who's going to be coaching me.
Yeah. Well, whatever God you believe in.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. So it's the truth. And so, yeah, just here to do the best we can, help as many, lives and people that we can in the short time we are here, because it does go by quick. I don't care if you lived to 95 or 100. What did you do at that time? Who did you
yeah,
help? Like that's how you say, you live forever in the terms of what we were meant to do here. And,
yeah.
so right on, man.
So cool. All right. So last question before we get into some fun things. One question I always like asking dads is an area of your dad game that maybe has been a struggle for you that may speak to another dad at home. I'll lead my witness here. Mine was patience. And as a competitive person, I have to really check it and realize that it's like, ugh. Or like expectations, like having false expectations of an environment that's like never going to come to fruition of what I see sometimes. But I think talking to nearly 300 dads, man, it's just helped me because I feel like I get free therapy out of every episode I do. What might be an area of your dad game, Lofa, that maybe has been a challenge for you that might speak to other dads at home?
Hmm. I mean, I know I don't have all the answers. Like nothing's coming to mind right now. Like I said, the only thing I know about this dad game is that I know nothing. So if that's comforting to anybody out there, I hope it is. But um, just finding ways to connect on a deeper level because life has changed. Like, a lot of parents, I believe, have kind of like, well, this is how it's always been. And it's like, well, why has it always been like that? Like, I know
Right.
how, this, you're speaking from your perspective and your lens, like, but like, if you look around, this is a very different world than what we grew up in at their age. And so, not really staying up on the times and like you said, Snapchat, like finding deeper ways to connect. Much like you said, you have these talks with your son, like, and I didn't know if it was like a timing thing, but of the last year or two, me and my oldest have been there. But I know it's going to be more impactful and meaningful for my youngest because very similar, right? No one's the same, but very similar. I see everything down to the stare, the look, the mannerisms, the attitude, the sarcasticness that I love sometimes, right? There's a time and a place. But, you know, really wondering, and I'm trying to just let things happen as natural as possible in the given time that it's supposed to. And but I look forward and cherish the time when I get to really connect with him on that meaningful level about just, he asked me questions about how did you deal with this? Or what
Mm,
because if you impress upon it too early, they might not be ready for it. And like
right.
one, they might not be listening. but two, like, you don't, like I said, I'm always hesitant to like shift their mindset from present moment and what it is, right? What just their lens as it is, because that's the beauty of life is we all have our different perspective, right? Sometimes it's not the best thing that we all have a different perspective as we talked about, but as long as you're, you know, giving love
Open
and joy
minded.
to the world. Yes, open minded. There you go, and just giving
Yeah.
love and joy to the world, and not hurting anybody. Like you're doing great.
Yeah. Um, I almost forgot. I want to ask you a question about visualization. So I think I saw you. Do you do stuff with the Kraken? Are you involved with the Kraken at all?
Not well, Todd Lywicki, he was with the Hawks, and Bill Chapin. They were with the Hawks back when I spent time there as a player, and so, but that was I was it was the Hero of the Deep, and they donate every time they do a Hero of the Deep. I believe it's $32,000, and so they did that for Special Olympics,
Mm,
Washington, and that was pretty not pretty. That was very meaningful to me. I just meant it's pretty special in the regard that first event my dad ever took me to when I was like 4 or 5. He was a chairman for the Rhode Island chapter of Special Olympics, and I remember it. And it was and every time we went to the Pro Bowl when I was grateful to get nominated, we got to sign up for a couple events. We always sign up for the Special Olympics, and so it was just some memories in time that are irreplaceable. Like and so, I'm bringing my kids to stuff now so they can get an appreciation about what we're supposed to be doing here. Service is our
yeah,
purpose, and but yeah, that was a it was a really so my whole family was there, and it was just a special night, man. It was cool.
that's awesome. That's so cool. Well, I'm going to make sure we tag Special Olympics into um, the reason why I bring the Kraken up is you talked about when you were 7 years old and you knew exactly you're supposed to play football. Like so, John Forsland, the play-by-play guy for the Kraken. I was lucky enough to interview him too in this journey, and he knew it. I think age 7, he was a Boston guy, but he knew at age 7 he was going to be an NHL announcer. And back then, his people were like, his high school guidance counselor's like, what? This job doesn't even exist. And he used to tell his dad when they had one of the only houses with cable, so they had the freaking thing on the roof with the wires and stuff. He would interview. He would have his dad's buddies come over, and John Forsman would go to his dad and say, "Hey, Dad, could it be okay if I do the play-by-play for your buddies? Just put the game on mute." And his dad said, "Yeah, sure." And just the patience, like I made me feel guilty as a dad because I'm like, I don't think I would have the patience to do that. I'm like, beat it, dude.
I mean, man, like this is when you wish a camera phone was around, right? To like record these special moments of like,
Yeah,
I told you this was going to happen. Like,
yeah,
and not John saying that, but like the dad, right?
right.
Like I saw it in my son, and I had a part in helping him, obviously, but like that would be incredible, like footage to like watch and for John, for the family, everybody, and like that would be awesome.
Pretty cool. So, all right. If you had to summarize, Lofa, everything we've talked about, the dads or moms or anybody listening can maybe take 2 or 3 actionable themes that they can apply in their own life to become a better ultimate or quarterback, I call it leader of their life or their family. Tell me what comes to mind.
Just stay present moment. And when you do and sit with it, you'll understand more about your kids because that's really the mission that we're talking about at hand. And all of the things that we said, the patience and everything. But when you're fully present in the moment, you see things differently. Like you don't just see them from your lens and perspective that has always been. You see it from like kind of their side, like and so present moment is really the biggest thing that I would tell, because everything else will come once you do that. Like you'll understand how to exercise patience. You'll understand how to help. And then the other thing that I really encourage parents, because my parents, this is one of the great things they did for me that led to my success, is when you see your kid light up doing something, that's their path. And just you try and use every resource in terms of connection of someone in that industry to just give them more information that they wish they had when they were younger, right? I always try to pass on the football knowledge, right? Any kid that asks me, I'm happy to have a conversation with
Mm,
about how I got better with any any part of the game. So, but yeah, when you see your kid light up, that's it. Like you'll know
yeah,
because you're gonna light up, and that's when we go. Let's go.
love that. It's true, man. When they see it, it's like the parents' dream when they find what they want to do in this their phase of their life where they're at. Like light it, just for keep throwing gas in that fire and get out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if people want to follow the work you're doing, if they want to get involved with any of the great charitable work you do, tell me what's the best way people can stay in touch with the work you're doing right now.
You know, I got to get better at that, at like actually sharing. You know, that's something in me that I fight with. I was like, I don't want credit for doing what we're supposed to be doing, everybody.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
like, there's just a bunch of different organizations. Ben's fine with autism. John and Tracy Snyder. So like you reach out and donate, of course, but they have events. Treehouse for kids. For fosters and families in need. Because anything with kids really, because you never know the ripple effect when like one of those kids could turn out just to be a megastar that everyone listens to, right? And
Yeah.
that's when multiple like good just echoes everywhere, right? So anything with kids, but Treehouse for Kids, um, yeah, there's a lot of them, man. It just I'll post about them and stuff and share when I'm doing events. But yeah, you just anything you do just to give back, whether it's your time and like even like when I say donate, like $5, that goes a long way for a lot of
Right.
these organizations. It doesn't have to be hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars every time. And thank you if you do, but just it's but so yeah, that's I think events just come up and I just go. Like
Yeah.
it's so I have to get better at organization. That is something I definitely need. But that's why the real quarterback, mom.
Well, I'm grateful that I met you at Treehouse. I'm grateful for MK. I'm grateful for Amber Bush for inviting me to that. I mean, that I learned so much about. And I actually felt bad. I'd never even heard of Treehouse before, and I spent
Really?
20. Yeah, and I'm like blown away by the impact that they had, and I was blown away. I was moved. And I told Amber, I was like, I want to get involved. Like, how can I help? And um, whether it's mentoring, whether it's giving when I can or time, it's just like I was blown away and moved by that event, and I'm so grateful that that their Treehouse does what they do, and I hope that they can continue to get the funding that they deserve because so many kids have been positively impacted, and they'll continue positive impact. So I think it's important that we support them where we can.
Absolutely, man. I love it. Love
Um,
hearing that.
okay, so now it's time to go into what I call the lightning round, where I show you the negative hits of taking too many hits in college, not bong hits, but football hits. Your job is to answer these questions as quickly as you can. My job is to try to get a giggle out of you.
Okay. Well, the giggle's going to be easy, but I'll try to answer it as quick as I can.
Okay. True or false, you once kicked a 72-yard field goal at King Philip?
False.
False. Okay. True or false, Matt Hasselbeck's faster than you in 40-yard dash?
That might be true, sadly.
I left first.
All right, you got me.
Okay. If I was to come to your house for dinner tonight, tell me what we'd have.
I'm a horrible cook, but let's see. Yeah, I know this is a lightning round. Awesome job, Loaf.
It's all right.
Yeah, we'll find something good, but I'll pour you a sparkling water. That
Well, there we
that
go.
that got me away from soda. Thank God.
Okay. Favorite comedy movie that you've watched hundreds of times?
I am such a movie like film like diehard fan, and it's all comedy. I only want to laugh.
Okay.
If I had to pick one, I might have to go Kingpin.
I love Kingpin.
It's hilarious.
So true story. I'm going to pause lightning round. Do you remember the part when he's like, Tennessee, Kentucky? Deeper, Jonathan, deeper. I did that in a practice at Central Washington and cadence. I said, boys, I'm doing the kingpin. And my coach was like, that's not our cadence. What are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm sorry, coach. I just messed around. We
Oh, well, yeah,
laughed fricking so hard.
absolutely. One of our sack dances at KP was the weekend at Bernie Lomax, where he put his head down. And then fast forward like 20 years, and they're doing it in the NFL, right? There was like a stint where that generation still remembered weekend at Bernie's.
Oh God, so good. Okay, back to lightning round.
Okay.
If you were to take a vacation, you and your wife, no kids, tell me where we're going.
Ooh. I'm not a big travel guy, but I would like to check out New Zealand.
It's on my list too.
Yeah.
Okay, what would be the one song in your phone that you listen to that might surprise many of your friends?
Mm. And Nico is the name, and it's Jericho or The Awakening. Those two songs, they spoke to me, like
Okay,
really spoke to me. So check those out. I'll send you the picture or the songs to the YouTube to them. But
okay,
those ones, like, they'd be surprised by that probably.
okay, love it. If there was to be a book written about your life, tell me the title.
Sail and keep going.
Okay. Now, Lofa, fail and keep going. Believe it or not, is they ran out of Amazon ran out of ink. They've been printing them too fast. So now Netflix has heard about it, and they're going to make a movie about it. And you are now the casting director. I need to know who's going to star Lofa Tatupu in this critically acclaimed hit new movie.
Mario Lopez, because he still looks younger than me, even though he's older.
Here we go. Okay. And then last question. Tell me two words that would describe your wife.
I think this might be the first time I'm speechless. Just two words are all and everything.
There we go.
She's my all. She is everything.
Lightning rounds complete. I typical dad, laughed at my own jokes, which is what I do. Um, this has been an absolute honor speaking to you. I know when I met you at Treehouse, I told you that was actually I've used that as a moment as a teaching moment to some of the sales teams I work with and leaders I work with, where because you and I think Sean were in front of me, and I didn't know it was you. I was and when you walked left, I walked to the right, and I'm like, holy shit, that Lofa Tatupu. And I remember MK, we were texting about it. And I was like, I got to either I'm going to choose to follow him or I'm going to choose the right. I'm like, F it. No. And then you were like probably 10 yards in front of me. And I probably like, who the frick, what's this dude on my tail for? And I'm like, I just said, screw it. I'm just going to do it because I believe what I do matters. And then when I just right and I mentioned MK, it was like immediate. We had a connection. And so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for, you spending time with me. And I know your story is going to impact a lot of people because you dropped a lot of wisdom specifically around, I think, just helping kids find their passion, staying present. These are things that we're never going to be perfect at, but if we can hear them over and over and over, that's how you teach yourself these skills, these habits. So I'm grateful for you, man. And hope our paths continue to cross, but I can't thank you enough for spending time with me today.
Brother, the honor was all mine. And thank you, everybody that listened. And appreciate you. And that's awesome. I love that you said, you know what, F it, I'm going for it. That made me smile. Right. That
Yeah.
was awesome. Yeah. It was
Yep.
meant to be. It was meant
All
to be.
right, baby. That's right. All right. Have a good weekend.
All right. You too.